But he also said never. That's pretty radical for Mike to say never. But then he said, I wonder if we're going to get a foot more of rain. I don't think so. Let's see if we can do some math here together, folks. So here is Irma. The good news is Irma is not as powerful as it was. The last report, the winds were at 105, and it sure looks like this will verify to being a Category 1 as it approaches Tampa. Now, it's moving north at about 14 miles per hour. Expected to turn more to the north and northwest. It's at 27.1. We're at 30.5, we being Duval, and I'll average it out for different locations. So that's about 200 miles, but we don't have to do that math. The math, if it continues to work to the north, so it's at 20, let's say it's at 27.5 now, going to go to 30.5. That's due east of Duval. So it's a degree, 60 miles per degree, so that's 180 miles. And if it's going at about 14, let's say 15 miles per hour, that's about 12 more hours. There's a lot of variables that can develop, but there is meteorological textbook that says, although you're going to have the downpours and you're going to have the lulls, normally you can say there's an average of about 1/4 to 1/2 inch per hour. That's how they worked out the Houston forecast. It looked like Harvey was going to stall for about 120 hours, and they said, okay, how much rain is that? Worst case scenario, 50 inches or 60 inches. Worst case scenario, 60 inches. Best case scenario, 1/4 of 120 would be 30 inches. And so they went for that forecast of 40 to 50 inches. That's how they came up with that. So let's do the same thing. Now, fortunately, this is not Harvey. It is not stalling. But I would say that as an average, because those of you over southeastern Georgia haven't had as much yet, those of you south of Duval will have less. So this average should work out. So let's say we're going to have about another 14 hours of rain. At the most, that's probably going to be about another 7 inches, and maybe that would be about 4 inches. So I think there will be higher amounts. But I don't think, Mike, and anybody else listening, I don't think we have another 12 inches of rain on the way. I think because we have plenty of confidence this system is going to head to the north. It may wobble a little more north-northwest, north-northeast, or north-northwest, but as an average get to about this position. So that I think is about another 4 to 7 inches. Now that is a lot of rain, but at least I think we don't have to worry about another foot. Mike, hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you have enough of a hill. Now I do want to remind you folks that some retention ponds are connected to the saltwater. I say saltwater because even if you can't see the ocean, if your retention pond is connected to saltwater, an estuary, a little creek, the St. Johns River, then if the storm surge peaks at 5 feet, you're going to be at least 5 feet above normal. And because those strong easterly winds are not allowing, for instance, right now, the St. Johns River is, at least for the upper portions of it, that is in Duval, we're approaching, actually, we just passed low tide. So the water should have been draining out some. Can't do it with the easterly wind. So what actually happens over some of the inland waterways, and especially the St. Johns, is that water gets trapped. So if you go through enough high tides, then the St. Johns may actually be above storm surge. So let's say if the ocean is going to make it to 5, it could be some places in storms in St. Johns and the intercoastal might make it to 6, but we're going for about a 5-foot level. And I just mentioned that because that rain can't go anywhere.